Joining us in our Philadelphia bureau at the Inquirer building is David Thornburg of the Fels Institute of Government at the University of Pennsylvania. And here in our studio we have David Taylor of the PA Manufacturers Association and David Black of the Capital Region Economic Development Corporation. David Black, I'll start with you. How would you describe Pennsylvania's current business climate?
I think it's slowly improving. We've been ahead of the curve as far as unemployment has gone through this recent recession. It's kind of an unusual position for Pennsylvania to be in. I kind of go back to my days in the Ridge administration when Governor Ridge always used to say when the nation caught a cold, Pennsylvania caught pneumonia. In this last cycle, we did not, but I think there's an opportunity to really lunge ahead as a state, and we'll talk about that later, I hope.
David Taylor, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Pennsylvania suffers from chronic economic underperformance. The fact that we're losing another member of our U.S. House delegation is witness to that. So there is a lot that needs to be done, but fortunately the battles that are right ahead of us, I think, are the key ones to be fought and won to turn Pennsylvania's economy around.
And David Thornburg, what do you think?
Well, I agree with David and David. I think the good news is we did weather this current recession, this great recession, better than most, certainly Southern California or Texas or Southern Florida. But I also agree with the other David that long-term, you know, we have a great distance to go to capture the entrepreneurial energy, a vital startup community, a vital new economy, if you will, that still remains elusive in Pennsylvania.
Phone call of the evening. We have Bill from Philadelphia. Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, this question is for either. I don't know if they're aware of this, but right now we have 10 casinos up and running in our state, and they're operating in a fashion that no other industry in our state can operate. In other words, they're open 24/7. They're allowed to serve free booze. They have smoking inside. They're allowed to cash checks. They're offering interest-free credit. They give out free play, and they're also comping people, which makes a lot of their players justify their losses. Now, with that happening, and with the simple fact that they're taking over $60 million a week out of the retail sector. In other words, the money that's going into these casinos is not being spent on furniture, clothing, cars. That type of hit, and 4 more casinos going to be opening in the near future. What effect do you think this is having on business, the business sector, especially in the retail end?
Well, I'll kick it off. I mean, I have to agree with the caller's perspective on things. You know, my organization didn't support the Rendell, gambling expansion plan, and I think that that there is very legitimate concern that the gambling industry doesn't do anything to add value or create wealth. That it really just cannibalizes, discretionary dollars that would go to other consumer spending, as the caller mentioned, and of course then there's also the sociological costs that go along with that. It was interesting that in Clark County, Nevada, the home of Las Vegas, that the resident population there is about 1.5 million, but that the annual visitors to Clark County, it's something over like 35 million. That what happens is that you fly them into McCarran right by the Strip, you fleece them, and then you send them back home to deal with their, with their losses back where they came from. Well, in Pennsylvania, most of Pennsylvania tourism is Pennsylvanians visiting another part of the Commonwealth. So, we're in a position where we're not going to be able to export the social costs of those gambling losses. So, yeah, I for one remain very troubled about the situation. The whole rollout was handled badly. If we were going to have legalized gambling, those casino licenses should have been auctioned instead of going at the bargain basement prices. There's a lot to be unhappy about with the gambling legacy.
Yeah, something tells me that I can't speak for David Black, speak for myself, but something tells me among the three of us there probably wasn't an enormous amount of enthusiasm for casinos in Pennsylvania to begin with. So now the question is, they're here. And I suppose, how do we make the best of a bad situation? And maybe there's a downstream series of issues that the governor and the legislature can take up in that regard.
And I think it's probably to David Taylor's points to track what are the social costs that follow this. Just speaking from our experience here in the Harrisburg area with the Hollywood Casino up the road, I haven't had a lot of complaints from local retailers. I don't know whether they've examined this at all. The company that operates Hollywood has been a responsible member of the community as far as that goes. But it is, again, time will tell, and as other states come up with gambling, I mean, part of the justification was, well, everybody's going to New Jersey, they're going to Atlantic City, why not do it here and keep the revenue here? I don't, I'm not a big fan of it, but it's here. Let's try to make the best of it. But to David's point, are we having other social consequences that is going to cost the state further down the road, and it'll be interesting to try to track that.
I would think at the very least that the enforcement powers should be given to the Office of the Attorney General instead of to the Gambling Enforcement Board. That seems to me to be an inherent conflict of interest, and that the Attorney General's office, as being a fully accredited law enforcement agency, would be just better positioned to handle that.
What do you gentlemen think from the business aspect of this? How has the addition of table games affected this? What about adding jobs? How has that affected things?
Well, I mean, the jobs that get added are, the croupiers and blackjack dealers and cocktail waitresses. Again, gambling doesn't really add value the way some other, professional service or, a manufacturing process would add value. It just seems to me it's a very expensive form of entertainment.
Yeah. We have to go back to Economics 101, and I'm teaching an economic development course at the Fels Institute of Government at Penn right now, and to remind our students that you get economic growth when new money enters a particular jurisdiction. So you would get new money if you had a tourist from New Hampshire coming to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or wherever and spending money. Or you certainly build wealth when a Pennsylvania company is exporting its products or services overseas and returning the revenues home. The concern about gambling is you don't necessarily have that unless you're holding on to money that otherwise was headed to New Jersey. Short of that, what you're doing is you're carving up the money that people spend on leisure activities, and rather than going to the movies or the ball game, they're spending at the casinos. But there's no new net growth from that. It's just a diversion from one sector to